What's up, everyone? Welcome to Get Lifted Podcast. My name is Jonathan Mendonca, and welcome to episode 2. We have Anthony here. How we doing, Anthony?
I'm good, man. I'm blessed, man. Happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on. I'm excited to have this chat and get the message out to more people today.
Yeah, for sure.
So we just kick it off. Start if you want to start with your sobriety date, where you live, just a little bit about you.
So I'm from Chicago originally. I moved down to Florida about 12 years ago. My recovery date is 3/25 of 2022. So I'm coming up on 2 years as of the 25th of next month. So I was 23 months last month. So, I live down here in Florida. As far as my recovery goes, like as far as things that I used to do, it's taken me into, obviously my career now, which I'm a drug and addiction counselor here locally. So for a company called First Step.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, it definitely seems like that's an important job for giving back and doing a service, keep you
For
sober.
sure. The relation aspect is just I just get I get a better response from the client. I remember being in that same seat, and I'm looking at this lady that's got a clipboard and a pen, and she gets paid to do this, and she's necessarily not been where I've been, so the relation aspect of it there I just get such a better connection and response throughout the whole thing.
That's awesome. Well, congrats to you, man. That's cool. Something I always thought about doing, never got into, but it's got to be awesome to be around the service and keeps it fresh for us. Just like when I help people, I speak at detoxes and rehabs all the time. It's like, whew, when I was there, I'm like, I remember day one all over again, like it was yesterday.
It's really added just another aspect to my recovery. Just again, another part of the journey that adds on, and it helps me keep myself accountable. If I'm preaching the funk, I gotta do the same actions. So it just helps me keep myself grounded and accountable, and it just keeps that fire lit in my recovery. You know.
Definitely, that's huge. So let's start and just congratulations on coming up on 2 years. It's kind of funny. You said yours is March, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Mine's March 3rd, and then the episode that's going to air right before this was my sponsor. Actually, he's like March 27th. So
Sweet, man. It's a good
three
month.
Marches off the bat.
Yeah, man. It's a good month for newborn dates, man.
Exactly. Definitely reborn. So if you want, take us through quickly, or slowly, how your childhood looked, or anything that you then kind of prompted you in addiction, or do you think you were born with it? I'd love to hear different ideas about that.
Just looking at the chemical balance of things and looking at past history, as far as my life in a nutshell, like my just growing up wise goes, history has repeated itself over and over again. So there were drugs in the family household, there was abuse in the family household. Then eventually, obviously, my mother could do what she could as far as that goes with raising us, being a single mother. So at this point, though, we have already been subject to the traumas of seeing the abuse in the household, seeing the drug use in the household. That, of course, obviously, it kind of shed towards us. So we didn't have much. I didn't have much guidance as a kid. I was the kid that I thought I was the cool kid in school. Had the connection on pot and just stuff like that. Like getting into stuff like that I necessarily shouldn't have even I shouldn't have had that open freedom to even obtain these things. And I kind of look at it today because my son, he's 15 years old, and this is when things kind of started for me at an age, like as far as just dabbling with alcohol and smoking pot. Like I look at my son today, and just by me being present in his life, he's very much a child still, where at that age I wasn't. I had him at that age, so like I was a baby having a baby at 15. I think he was conceived when I just turned. No, excuse me. He was conceived when I was 15, or no, he's born when I was 15, and then I turned 16 that next March. He's born in December, so I was a baby, and then of course from that point, obviously, I'm not making the best decisions. School wasn't a priority. I didn't even think of future of a job aspect, of course, but. With that being said, like obviously when he came along, that was kind of like my turning point to change the way that I was and the way that I had been raised and the things that I was doing. So he definitely gave me that motivation to change.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, and I think I deal with the same myself. That I had addiction all the way through alcoholism. I think it kind of skipped my parents in my growing up, but yeah, same. I think it's amazing when you hear the stories. Like a couple of my grandparents were, a lot of aunts and uncles were, great aunts and uncles. So it's crazy.
Like
It's amazing.
my my father's side of the family, substance abuse is just it was just a normal thing, cocaine and alcohol, and younger cousins smoking pot, and like this is who we had to look up to. These are the generals we looked up to as kids, as young boys, and we thought that stuff was cool. And not only that, there was another side of violence with his side of the family where my mom, him and my mother were night and day. She didn't use drugs, she didn't use substances. Obviously, she fell to the abuse side of things by my father, and early on, he exited our lives early on. Like not until I probably got I was probably 18 or 19 until I started actually trying to build a relationship with him again.
Damn. Yeah, so it definitely takes a part. I'm sure just finding, filling that gap in life, and we already think it's cool, so we start to use it as a medicine for pain.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's where people ask me all the time, do you think like weed was like a gateway drug like everyone else says? I think it kind of just set me up, to be honest with you, to be that first thing that that altered my mind in a way that I could escape from really what I was facing and didn't know how to face at the end of the day.
I think that definitely that's huge. Yeah, I speak about in my book Life on Life's Terms. I speak about I went through like just a traumatic incident. My home life was a little more chill and like kosher or whatever you call it. But I went through actually my friend's dad passed away, and that like I didn't know, like you said, like just a different scenario, but I didn't know how to deal with it. And then all of a sudden I was like, it seems cool to do drugs.
Right.
And when I did it, it eases the pain. So now I know how to deal with it. I don't feel that anymore.
Exactly.
That's an
For sure.
important thing. Important thing for people to hear. Um, First deep question: if you could tell your younger self one thing now, before addiction, with what you know now, what would be the one thing you would tell yourself?
You're worth it, man.
That's huge. Love
You're
that.
worth it. At the end of the day, you're worth it. Your self-love is worth it. Like you gotta. That's I'm my bad, man. It's kind of emotional, but like seriously,
No,
at
it's
the end
huge,
of the day, like
bro.
seriously, honestly, I know it's such a short answer, but at the end of the day, that's what it sums it up to. You are worth it.
I mean, I could relate to that a lot. That's a perfect answer. Cuts deep. A lot of people, I think, don't feel that, and they need to hear that. So, explain your rock bottom quick. What was it like before you? Like, what kind of jump started you into trying to get sober or getting sober?
So just a little bit of backstory. Like I like to tell people, like, that I've lived life on both sides of the spectrum before drugs. When growing up, I didn't have much, but then getting into manhood, and again, like I said, I had a child, so I had to figure it out. So not only did I have a child, but I had a child that his mother fell to opiates and opioids very early on, and she signed sole custody of him to me when he was 8 months years old. So now I'm a child myself. I got this child in my hands, and I got to figure it out. So then it's crunch time. I figured I was going to be the only person that was in his life. Of course, facing my own abandonment issues, I didn't want him to face that. And he's already coming into this world 8 months years old, and you already got somebody leaving you. So um, from that point on, I just walked high, man, and sought out to figure out a career for myself, finish school, stuff like that, and so at the point before I even got into this, I had everything I ever wanted, I had a good wife, I had a good family, I had a beautiful home, beautiful cars and stuff. So, um, rock bottom for me, just to fast forward a little bit, at this point, I had lost everything, and when I mean everything, I lost my house, I lost my kids, I lost my cars, I lost. The biggest thing is I lost my self dignity at the end of the day. Like I was so lost, and like to the point to where I had built this great life for myself, and I was a person with dignity, and I had all this pride just coming from nothing and turning it into something, and and I mean, I'm living out in the woods. I'm living out in the woods. I'm panhandling every day. I'm stepping over anybody I need to step on in order to get high. And that's how it was. And that was, I stepped on my kids, I stepped on my family, I stepped on everything that I known that I love to do and what I love so much did not matter to me anymore. So rock bottom was the real rock bottom. Obviously, I remember sitting there, I was in the woods at this time. I don't know what happened, I don't know who came back or why someone came back there, because like I said, I was off in the cut. At this point, I'm doing enough dope to to unalive myself. You know what I mean? Like I was just to that point. And sure enough, where I was doing that, but I always kind of felt like I just could take it. I was an avid fentanyl user for the last 3 years of my addiction. Then I sought out fentanyl. I wasn't using pressed pills or anything like that. I sought out fentanyl. And you know, like like I said, just from the grace of God, somebody found me. I ended up overdosing. I was still gone for 12 minutes. They Narcaned me 6 different times. And I remember waking up inside of a hospital, and there's detectives all around me, and of course they're like, "What happened? What happened?" Whatever. And of course, I'm not giving anybody anything. So mind you, I'm on paper at this time. So I figured if they're gonna turn around and Marchman Act me, or I think it was either a March, I think it was a Marchman Act, is what they did. Um, that if there wasn't room at the facility that we had locally at the time, they would take me to jail. So that would automatically actively violate my probation. So I'm telling him, I'm like, man, don't send me to jail, man. Don't lock me up for the day. And the detective looked at me and he said, dude, I hope you go to jail. And sure enough, I ended up having to go to jail because there was no room in the facility. And then they transferred me the next day to the facility. And I was talking to my clinician at the time, and I was just being honest with her. I was being super transparent with her. She put a 2-week hold on me to where I couldn't leave the facility. Mind you, you're supposed to get out in 24 to 48 hours, right? So, like I said, an overdose, completely gave up on life, completely had absolutely nothing, not a pot to piss in. And that was my true rock bottom. Like I said, I just seen a shell of who I once was before, and I was soulless, man. Like seriously.
That's huge. I mean, that's a raw story. I love it. Uh, I think that's the most important thing I can relate to is that just like that hopelessness. You know what I mean? Like we don't see any way out, and it's like people think we're just partying and having a good time or lazy, and it's like
Right.
we're not even caring if we live or not really. You know what I mean?
I mean, like literally, man, and like I'm not just saying that just to express the severity of the situation.
Yeah,
I mean, alone doesn't even give a definition of how I felt. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
just I can tell you this. I never thought that 23 months I would be here whatsoever. Not for 1 second did I ever think that. Did I ever think that this was possible? And I've seen people. I've seen people get into 12-step program. Mind you, I've never done it myself. I've seen people go through the motions of getting sober and getting their life back. But I had came to an exception with myself that this was the only thing that was going to cure me, and this is the only thing that was allowed to kill me at the time. You know what I mean? Like it just, I remember making the day I made that choice that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an addict. Like I made it blatantly clear. Like sitting at the table, I lost my mom that day, the most important person to me in my life, and I remember sitting at the table and I told myself, this is how I'm going to get through this. Period. Like it was just another thing that was just added to the plank of things that I had already going on and that I really didn't know how to deal with in the first place. And this just kind of put the icing on the cake. And yeah, man, it's pretty dark times, man. Seriously.
No, I definitely relate a lot, and I appreciate your rawness. 'Cause a lot of people need to hear that part. And then what did getting sober, after you hit your rock bottom, what did it kind of look like when you started to work on yourself, get sober? What did getting sober look like?
So I was one of those guys that, like, when I got a little bit of clean time under my belt, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't bought into nothing. I wasn't bought into no programs. I wasn't bought into smart recovery. I just wasn't using drugs, and I got over the withdrawal aspect of it, and I was set off to I'm done, right?
Mm.
Well, obviously, a lot of stuff had happened in between times of being in addiction. I was in addiction for 10 years. Excuse me, I had a 10-year run. Um, and obviously legality came up, and you know, At this point, the legal system is pushing me into a treatment court. It's pushing me into an IOP. It's pushing me into all of these, different things. So where I thought that I was just going to get up and saw it off and I was good to go, I found out real quick that I wasn't. Like, I found out real quick that regardless if I stopped using drugs, I still had to look at the same man in the mirror. So until I really bought into that fact, and that's not buying in, until I really seen the truth of the whole situation. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, you can be a piece of crap still and be off of drugs. Just because that aspect isn't there anymore, you have to truly want to change those characteristics that you have learned along the way, but not even just the characteristics that you learned along the way as an addict. All the ugly things about yourself before I ever used. You know what I'm saying? I truly wanted to change those things. So, um, I automatically, man, I just went hard. Like I said, I went into looking for different options, and I looked at smart recovery. I looked at faith based. I looked at 12-step recovery. I looked at all these different options because I really truly needed to find what worked for Anthony and who Anthony was and how I was going to identify with that person again. Because again, all this stuff has happened, and here's this huge shock that I can change, but at the same time I'm feeling the same as I did, when I was using, in a sense, because at this point no one's back in my life. I don't have anyone there. I don't have. I burnt every single bridge to the point to where no one wanted to deal with me whatsoever. So I really didn't know to turn left or right. You know what I'm saying? At this point, it was just like this. Whatever I try, I can't lose. It's only going to make my life better. So I just, like I said, man, I took it real serious, man. And of course, I end up going the 12-step route, of course. I really identified with that option. And again, like I said, that's what worked for me. That doesn't mean it works for everybody. I understand people have their own thing, and I think it's important for you to truly find what you identify with at the end of the day. Again, like I said, to further on my recovery, I have tried new things, and I've been completely open to try through things. The biggest thing that I sought out with when I first was in the first stages of my recovery, it's time to get comfortable with getting uncomfortable. You know,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid to try these new things. Again, if they're only going to better your life for the greater good, then jump in. Why not? Look where you're at now. But you're never going to get out of that spot. You're never going to move forward if you don't take action for your life. And again, that just comes back down to the whole self-worth thing. Like literally, not just telling yourself. You might have to fake it till you make it at first, but at the end of the day, you need to find your self-worth, and you need to find, just give yourself that purpose, every day, and that's going to help you progress on. But that's what it looked like for me in the beginning.
Wow, that's amazing. No, it relates so much to like there's three like big things I got out of that I can relate to so much. I think it's so crucial for everyone is the willingness, like you talked about, the open mindedness to, like, whatever. It's That's how I am today. People would be like, try Reiki, try yoga, I'll try anything that's better for. I would try any drug. I'll try heroin, I'll try crack, I'll try. So I got to be the same way with like good stuff. You know what I mean? That like I got to try yoga, I got to try the gym, I got to try church, I got to try. And if it doesn't work, you don't got to stick to it. I think that's important for newcomers.
Right, right. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't work, if you seem to fall down with the situation, get back up and swing at something else. That's all there is to it.
Right.
Again, I guess I lost that. I mean, in those stages, like I said, it was just so critical for me to. I knew I needed to find something. I really knew I wasn't okay. I wasn't all right. Where I thought at first, like, yeah, man, I feel good. Those endorphins start kicking back in again, and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I'm about to go conquer the world. And next thing you know, it's like I hit a corner street and I see someone selling a bag, and that, I mean, that's the route I didn't take, of course, but I'm just saying, like, we're so fragile at that point in our recovery. And again, like I said, those endorphins sometimes like direct us in a bad direction because we're feeling good. We're feeling like our old selves. We're feeling like we can just conquer, but you just need to slow down. You need to slow down and realize, like, even if you don't stick with that structure that these programs set in place for you, at least give yourself enough time to where you're not as fragile. You know what I mean? Like, like I said, it was just super important in the beginning. Like I could identify it in the beginning that I needed to figure it out. I needed to figure something out.
Yeah. No, and I think and it's so huge to say like the whole part about when you got sober, you realize you're the same because like I deal with that all the time. I dealt with my story, and I deal with the people I try to help. I mean, I remember getting sober and like still falling into different traps and stuff, and being like, "Damn, I'm still messed up." And my sponsor is like, "Yeah, you gotta go through the steps. You gotta like build your character a little. You know, you have good morals, a great heart, but you gotta do some
What
self
was
development."
it was the truth, man. It's like, and that's the thing. It's probably the most crappiest feeling when you feel like just stop using drugs is doing the best thing in the world you could do for yourself, right? And still, good things are not walking into your life. You know what I mean? You're like, come on, man. Like, what? Throw me a bone here. But realistically, at the end of the day, there's just more work to put in for yourself before you can get to those next steps.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a major lesson for anyone listening that's new. You know, and what for you? What does it look like? You know, staying sober today? Is like tools that work for you and things like that.
Man, you know, at the end of the day, I don't, if the recipe's good, don't change it. You know, I stick to, like, of course, obviously, my horizons are a lot broader now today, you know, where certain boundaries had to stay into place. But, like, my main stuff that I have, you know, obviously, I don't go around anyone that uses. Obviously, the way that I set my life is set up now. I'm very structured from getting up in the morning to washing my face, brushing my teeth, make my bed. Like those things are so important. Not only that, but also like for me, you know, I'll dress up for nothing. I'll dress up to go to the grocery store, you know, and that's just important for me to set the tone for my day and that drive to get up and go, you know, and it's just like it's a daily reprieve on go and get it. Like go if you want it, you can go get it. You can have it. The only thing that stops you from getting the things that you want in your life is you at the end of the day. So, again, just stick to my core boundaries that help me be successful today. Not stepping outside of those boundaries for no one at the end of the day. And this goes for our relationship. This goes for the relationship with my family. This goes for the relationship, with my friends that I've developed along the way. At the same time, I don't want to be the disease at the end of the day, but just because you're setting yourself up and you can drink casually doesn't mean that I can. So again, I just stick to those core boundaries that I have set up in my life that I set up over the last 23 months. And again, they worked then, so they're going to work now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's huge. I mean, the great thing is like that 50-50 being open minded, but also like I'm the same way. Like I got it 5 days a week at the gym. I got to pray to start my day. I got it that cement you set in the beginning. I think it's huge. And like you said, you get those endorphins in the beginning. I deal with a lot of people. Like I said, I went through it myself. All of a sudden, I was sober, but I still wanted to be in a bar. I was single, chasing girls because like now I feel good. I'm sober. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
then you end up realizing I don't have the personal development tools or like that mental spiritual growth yet to have that space between a drink. And then all of a sudden, I catch myself relapse, and I see it with people now. I'm like, yo, just what do you? They're like, oh, I'm unhappy and I can't stop. Going to clubs or using or whatever. And I'm like, well, what does your day look like? And there's just no supplement and no tools. And I'm like, well, yeah, you gotta have a defense against that first drink. You gotta have a
Yep.
little spiritual rise in your day somewhere.
Right. I was talking to a client the other day, and he was telling me that, like, he's coming up on his 3 months, and he's like, he habitually messes up after 3 months. So, like, I wanted to take a cruise into his mind and see where he's at 3 months. He's feeling the best he's felt in forever. He feels like he's building confidence again. Those relationships are coming back around. But at the end of the day, you need to realize that you can't accomplish like this is there's still things I have to work on today. 2 years is nothing. You know what I'm saying? I know there's just so much more work to be put in, again, that you can't just subject yourself to saying that you're okay within 3 months, because realistically you haven't accomplished anything. Obviously you're taking those steps in the right direction to triumph at the end of the day. But, like, again, you just got to give yourself that time, and no matter how good you're feeling, just know if you're feeling good now, you can feel better in from 3 months to 2 years to 5 years to 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, it never stops. giving as far as it goes. Your sobriety doesn't, you know. You just have to see the blessings that come back into your life, dude. In 2 years, I have I've received so many blessings, from owning a house again, to owning my own car, to working an honest job, to having my kids that were taken out of my home. Um, from the system, and they're back into my life. I can be a father again. And the thing that's so critical with that is that at this point I can't go back and make up that time, those 2 years that I was unpresent, because they were with me for the whole ride. But um it was very circumstantial as far as my usage go, because I started off on pain pills through a doctor. You know what I mean? And then as the things progressed, like, obviously, um, it never is enough. So when it comes to opiate and opioids, and someone offered me fentanyl one day, and next thing you know, it was the cheapest and strongest thing in town, where I'm spending $300 a day on pills. You know what I mean? Like, literally. I had a wonderful job. I mean, I'm working a professional job. I was a branch manager at Wells Fargo for the last 3 years of my career. You know what I mean? So, like, and this is full blown in use. So again, there was a side of me that no one ever got to see. But I can't make up for the time that I've separated from my kids. So at this time, it's so critical to be the best father I can be going forward. And the only way I can be the best father I can be going forward is sober.
Definitely, yeah, that's amazing. That's funny. I can relate. In my addiction, I was the senior manager of a call center of like 1,500 people, and I would like smoke a little crack and then do a little heroin before I went into the office. And then I always tell people I'd be writing people up. They're like double my age for being like 2 minutes late. I'm like, you can't be late. And then I'm like in the car, like, it's that double life.
It's crazy what we can do as humans, and still balance out things in our life when life is so unmanageable. Like, it's crazy to think that, like, I was getting high in the bathroom in between customers, taking $1 million portfolio of customers like it was nothing, and staying
But
awake through all that. Like, it's crazy.
yeah, it's amazing. I think it touches on a lot. Like recently, and I love how you said like it takes time. Like I'll have 5 years March 3rd, so in a couple of weeks. And I tell people,
Congratulations.
thank you, man, I'm grateful. But I tell people all the time, like, I'm still fucked up and figuring it out. I'm a lot better than I was in the beginning, but
Right.
that one day at a time really means a lot. And the tools where I'm going with this, I think I'd love to hear your ideas on it. But like, I think addicts have such a, I don't just like to say better or worse than a normal person, but such a special skill set. Like even right now, not to boast my like to own horn, but like in a year, I've published a book, started a podcast. My goal was 10,000 on TikTok followers, got it. And I see it in everyone else. I mean, my sponsor that was just on before this, he is actually in a rock band. They're touring the world. You've gotten a home. You're helping people, and you got your kids back. I mean, like miracles. And it's like I feel
Right.
like we have a special ability, but we dull it down when we're using.
Right. No, I completely agree with that and identify with that. Some of the best people that I met are in recovery or we're addicts at the end of the day. Very creative people. At the same time, we can be very creative and we can do these great things. We can also be very broken, just like anybody else. But again, I don't know if it's more of an emotional standpoint for us, where, obviously, I guess anyone can turn to what we consider as the band-aids of using a mind altering substance or whatever to not feel. But at the end of the day, it takes a hold of us different. Like my buddy, he can go out on the weekend and get hammered every weekend, and I go out and have a drink, and I'm spun out in the next 2 weeks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it
Yeah,
just it just doesn't work for me for some reason. So then that's just what makes it so individualized to, like at the end of the day, like I said, and again, that's why I think it's hereditary sometimes, or it comes from, it's born from that trauma or whatever that we've gone through. That, you know what I mean? Like, it's,
yeah.
but you're right though. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. And I always tell people that like even recently someone asked me, they're like they bumped into me, haven't seen me in a while. Like, damn, you're doing so much because like I also have a lot of free time because I don't have kids. You know what I mean? Not married, so I don't have the crazy ties. And I've made it a mission of mine to spend my free time giving back and set up a brand and an empire where it could just pass a message of hope and sobriety. And like you're doing so much, and I was like. They're like, don't you have time for you? Like, how do you get all this done? I'm like, man, addicts wake up with $0. We need 500 for drugs, and we come up with it like magicians. Like, we could make anything happen.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. But at the same time, though, I look at, like you just said, man, like one, that's what makes this such a beautiful thing, that you're doing this and that you set up this platform and that you're passionate about it and it's genuine at the end of the day. You don't have all those other things going on in your life. You don't have kids. You don't have that responsibility, and you're making this your responsibility. Where at the end of the day, yeah, we're in recovery and stuff like that, but it doesn't mean you have to sign up. And be more than an individual contributor. Like this is the desire of yours to want to help other people, which again, that just speaks volumes about your character and wanting to do this here. I was going to ask you, like, what drives you to do this at the end of the day?
that's a good question, and I appreciate the kind words. And I think, and before I answer it, I think it is also so important though. Like, I'm very big, and my sponsor is very big on beating down my ego. That like, this is my path, but it's just as important. And if even I got sober as an old man, and I was just better than my wife. Like whoever it is, like that's your huge purpose. Like,
Right.
but what started all this is Get Lifted, the tag or brand, whatever. Started after middle of COVID 2020. In a week, I lost a kid from high school, my roommate from my rehab, and my childhood best friend through my whole life. All died in like 5 day period from overdose and mental health. And I just got in. I was like a year and 2 months sober, and meetings were shut down, so I just couldn't find a way to help and give back because that's how I deal with grief, deal with everything in life, service, like step 12 for me. And my sponsor was like, find a way, step 12 people. And, I'm from Connecticut, and it's just like everywhere else, though, in Florida and shit. It's just crazy. I think out of like, I don't know, 500 people I was high school with, like 30 have passed away at least from overdose.
Yeah.
Um,
It's getting
so
out of
that's
hand.
why it's crazy. But I started posting about it, and then I would do posts, and then people said you should write a book or do this or that. I was like, maybe, maybe. And then sadly, in 2021, I lost my younger brother to suicide. And that I was just over 2 years sober. And obviously, that took time, and still always be grieving that. But um, really, after about 6 months of that, I said, all right, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to do more. I'm going to start a podcast. And
Right.
helps me stay sober, really. That's the reason. Like, it's a
Well,
selfish way, too.
I was just gonna say, like, when people were saying, like, well, man, you do so much, like, what do you do for yourself? This, like, I know what it is to do something and one have, like, I obviously I do the TikTok thing too as well,
Yeah.
and it's it's all grounded me in a way and given back to me from my job to the TikTok thing. Sometimes TikTok can be like being in the rooms. I go live, man, and I get people in there that are still suffering in their addiction, you know what I'm saying? And just to see the light of the situation where they even interact in a way to want to be pulled out of that or don't know which way to turn. Like, I remember being back in a situation where I didn't know really. I mean, obviously I knew that a recovery thing existed, but I didn't know where to start, Not that I wanted to start, because I was deep in it, but at the same time though, I feel like our stories are so powerful at the end of the day. If we save one person, we're doing our job in this world. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously we want to reach more people than that, but um, I'll take the one all day. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's how it works. We could save one, they could save one. We're saving
Exactly.
millions. Really, that's all it
Right.
takes. I think that's huge. That's so real quick, just so we'll say it maybe quick at the end too. Throw your TikTok handle or at or whatever out here, so anyone listening could give you a follow as well.
Yeah, it's ANT dot VS dot addiction. Ant versus addiction. So
Yeah, versus addiction, awesome.
yeah,
Ooh,
man.
it's my camera. But I think that's something huge to touch on because I mean I got sober. I tried to get sober in 2014 to 2018. Got sober in March of 2019. And I wasn't aware, and I think TikTok wasn't big. We just didn't have all this. But I think it's so amazing with all the negative stuff with social media, how people like you, myself, see so many other people out there just like, and same, I'll go live and someone's so raw, like they probably won't ask their family for help or walk in a meeting, but at least they're safe behind their phone and they'll pop crazy raw questions like, oh, I'm struggling,
Right.
how do you get sober? And it's so amazing with social media, how we can help a lot of people.
Dude, I've had people, wives and family members that have someone suffering and contact me on, like, how do I help them? What do I do? You know, like, they're doing this, they're doing that. And again, that conversation was sparked based off of me being so raw about my life. And again, you go on my TikTok, you know, I get nitty and gritty about where I was, just like I can just on this call. Like, you know, like I said, one thing is I'm not I'm not ashamed who I once was, because, you know, I'm proud of the man I am today. Like, when I look in the mirror, like, I know him. I know the man that I'm looking at. And again, don't get me wrong, I still got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of more work to put in for myself. Um, but you know, I have a self-love for myself that's out of this world. So that stuff doesn't bother me. Like, to be honest, someone asked me, like, would you change it? And I don't know if I would change it. Um, because it made me who I am today. You know what I mean? Like, it really gave me a lot of perspective. I can think back to when I wasn't using, and I just was so unsure. Maybe it's because I was younger or something like that. And now I have more experience, but like, you know, I never aimed to be like the man I was before. I just wanted to be a little bit better, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, if you get 10% better each day in 10 days, you'll be 100% better than you were when you started.
Exactly,
So
man.
I like that. That's amazing. Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing too. I was like, I think when people ask why I do this too, I was very ashamed. I think we were. I'm sure you could relate. You know, when you first get sober, it's like you walk in a grocery store, you hold your head down. You don't want people that know you're an addict to like see you. I grew up in a small town, so you know, I was embarrassed for myself, my family, the people that used to be proud of me as a young baseball player kid now look down on me. And once I started being open about it, it's just amazing. The you know, just like you, I love your TikToks are raw, and you get a lot of responses. And I love your stuff. And it's amazing when you're actually honest, because how many people are going through? Everyone's going through something. They don't talk about it. It's like the response is, you know, people pour out love and respect, and it's amazing.
Right. And that's another thing is, you know, when you're, like you said, when you're first getting into it, I feel like you think like you're this viral disease where you don't want to really open up about yourself because people are going to look at you for what you once were. And sometimes that's true, but the TikTok app in particular has shown me, you know, I have videos that, you know, have almost 100K views on them, and the comments that I have on there from people that don't use whatsoever, putting their arms around me, letting them know how proud of, or let me know how proud of they are of me. Like, just, it's insane, it's crazy. Like, and it just gives you a different perspective of just being open about yourself. People are going to see the real you. People are going to identify that you're trying to help yourself, and there are good people out there at the end of the day.
Definitely, definitely. No, and I think it's a great way to just spread love, and you know, now there's a still always a stigma of mental health and addiction, but you know, people like you, myself, others are definitely killing that stigma where people are kind of more accepting of addicts, sobriety, more aware of mental health stuff. You know.
You know, and if you look at it, there's so much stuff out there right now that we popularize that is not worth a damn thing. Excuse my language, but
Right.
like I said, it's not worth anything. You know what I mean? So to take this and try to bring this to the forefront and make it cool to not use, like,
Right.
or to give it up and come back and glow up and have your life back, or have a better life than you had before, like, you know, like, I'm with it. You know, I'm gonna jump on that all day, every day. You
Love it.
know.
Definitely. So as we get to wrapping up here, just two main things I want to ask. I always end it with this, and then after that, anything you want to add, share, and we'll wrap it up. But number one, what would you say to someone that's struggling today? Whether you know whatever question you want to come up with, if it's how do I get help, or just like anything that you would say to someone struggling today, gave you a call.
If someone was to say that they needed help, you know, automatically I think contact is huge. Attack right then and there. Let them know that your doors are open. Let them know that, one, like, again, like I said, I think people familiarize with relation, and knowing that, you know, you're a safe place because you've been through where they've been, and just keep that open door for them, you know, so you can guide them in the right direction, because where it may seem like you don't have the help, just know that there is some.
Awesome, perfect. And what do you think is either the best advice you've ever received, or kind of like a motto or a saying that you hold tight to your heart day to day, whether sobriety, not sobriety?
Um, you know, this one that just really sticks with me, has always stuck with me. Is people, places, and things. Like, as far as that goes, it's just that, especially critical for the people in the beginning stages. Like, that's, I used to think it was such a cliche. I used to think a lot of things were cliche, especially in the 12-step realm. And then, of course, like when you get to work in these programs and stuff like that, you find out that it's not. But like that, that helps me tremendously today. Those boundaries help me tremendously today,
Yeah, that's something huge. That's funny. I hated them in the beginning too. I was like, oh, this shit's so stupid and old. And then it's like,
How I felt, man. That's
you know,
how I felt at first.
yeah, but you start to be aware and just follow these little sayings and everything comes together. And they say you are who your friends are and all those old sayings. So it's like people, places, things, where you're around is where you're going to probably end up if you don't
Exactly.
have good reason to be there.
Exactly.
Uh, well, damn, Anthony, I appreciate you coming on here. It's amazing, very inspiring hearing your story. I can't wait for listeners to hear this. Anything you want to leave on, anything you want to go, like your chest, tell the people. If you want to drop any of your Instagram handles or business stuff.
Yeah, I really do the TikTok stuff, ant.verse.addiction. If you guys ever need anything, my inbox is always open. Like I said, one thing, it's like I treat it like being in the rooms. There is no strangers in this at the end of the day. We might have different walks of life, but I'm telling you right now, we can share stories with each other, and we can show a lot of similarities at the end of the day. And together we're stronger at the end of the day. We do recover at the end of the day, and we recover better together. So again, anybody that's struggling out there needs help. Um, feel free to inbox me. I'll be happy to be there, happy to be a friend when you feel like you don't have one. So, and of course, just thanks to you, John. I appreciate you allowing me to come on your platform and just share my story and just get some backstory about you. It's always truly a blessing to meet people that seek out that same message as I do. And I just appreciate all the hard work that you're doing for yourself, and that you're doing for others as well. So again, I appreciate you, man. And like I said, this is how we build relationships at the end of the day. And I see just a long future of relationship with you. You know what I mean? You're a good dude, seriously.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that too. It's funny, right as you started talking, that's what I was thinking. I was gonna say, once I come down to Florida, I gotta catch you, and we'll definitely stay in touch and see where the
I'm
world
right
is.
by the beach, man. 10 minutes away, man. Sarasota, Florida. I'm right on the
Awesome.
Gulf of Mexico. It's beautiful down here.
Yeah, I've been working hard. I need a little beach in my life.
Hey, man, it's a good 75, 80 today on the cool. It's nice
Wow.
out today. Sun's out, everything. So, like I said, man, let's just keep in touch, man. And again, thank you so much. Like, seriously, I really appreciate it, man. Seriously, honestly.
No, thank you so much for your service and just being raw and open. It's gonna help a lot of people. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm proud of you.
For sure, man. Same goes to you, buddy. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, my man. Later, everyone. Much love. If you need help, ask for help. And thank you, Anthony, for being on here. God bless everyone. Get lifted.
God bless everybody.